The institution used was New Market Films due to the highly profitable psychological thriller films such as Memento. New Market Films challenges the conventions of our film because our opening does not have a lot of drama, even though majority of the films are of that genre, but mainly the materials which help us accommodate the psychological aspects of our film. A lot of the elements, conventions, and effects are solely based on putting fear into the audience's mind, as this would magnify the effects of psychological aspects within our genre. Our opinion dictated that we were allowed to add our own conventions and elements from different genres, because as psychological thrillers aren't as popular as action and comedy genres, we were allowed to add our own conventions within our film. The font of the title and credits have a small fade effect with an antiquated font which fades into the middle of the screen in a slow pace going against the conventions of a fast, snappy, and shocking paces which are rather popular with thrillers. The title appears slowly, giving the idea that the events in the film that take place may be slow at times to lower the audience's expectations, and also rather shocking as there will be a large contrast between one scene from another where the audience is thrilled at certain times within the film. At first, we looked at film openings in order to create an opening that was successful and met the criteria of our chosen genre. For example, we researched Memento and Insomnia. Looking at the film Insomnia, we picked up a scene that we could appropriately advance according to the equipment, locations, and costumes that were available according to our budget. This went with the conventions of psychological thrillers as it showed the same effects, such as the sound and the cinematography, which helped set the environment and the mood. These films facilitated us to understand the conventions of the genres, which helped us to recognize what types of conventions were needed to include in our film. We had done plenty of research on films of our genre, but it was also appropriate to look at other genres to see what we could include. For example, we looked at films like The Women in Black and Scary Movie. These films helped us to establish what we shouldn't have in our openings, as it did not fit the required conventions. For example, the comical features from Scary Movie, such as the alien's costume, which looked very unreal. We could easily say that there were actors within the costumes making it more funny than it is scary. We also didn't like some of the fast-paced camera shots used to add irony towards the fear factor of a horror film. However, we did pick up some ideas for our own film. For example, from The Women in Black, we thought we could have a majority of the shots focusing on the protagonist in order to express to the audience of what emotions should be running through their mind, seeing the character's reaction to the world and being able to reflect their perspective from the main character. This challenged the conventions of the psychological genre because one of the primary aspects of psychological thrillers is the fact that it brings up the frightening elements directly towards the audience rather than the main characters themselves. After we had acknowledged our chosen genres, we then established our target audience around the psychological thriller film genre so that what we filmed would appeal to our target audience and would be recognized. We did this by handing out questionnaires that we made on Microsoft Word 2013. Doing this helped us to understand whom our genres applied to and who would enjoy our film opening the most. The music changes quite frequently throughout the film openings because this allows the audience's mood to change more throughout the film and helps put the narrative together without much dialogue, as it also tells the audience how they should feel whilst watching that scene. Unlike in psychological thriller film, the music changes very few times to ensure the audience feels fear throughout the whole film. The sound would overlap the idents in the beginning of the opening as it would help set the mood for our audience before the first ever scene even starts to begin. The social groups which we targeted to represent in our films are teenagers. A lot of films by New Market Films would be viewed by teenagers as they have a lot of R-rated drama genre films such as Memento, Donnie Darko, Monster, and The Passion of Christ. Also seeing that a lot of younger social class would not be granted access into cinemas legally in order to watch the films. They are excluded from our available target audience in this case. Therefore, New Market is a suitable company for our film, as the adult social class are the dominant throughout the opening, and are mainly dominant throughout the film, and this is what the social class of teenagers would have to go through daily. Therefore, it helps the teenagers be able to reflect and watch the film from their perspective, seeing these similarities the protagonist and the audience have in common. We think that we were successful in showing this social class through the authority they held, and the protagonist's respect towards the customary hierarchy held within each shot with her and a male adult figure. On the other hand, I believe that we also aim to represent the social class of teenagers. Though a majority of their films are R-rated, there are still a few films such as The Wake and Creation which are still age-appropriate. This allows this social group to explore a variety of genres and different films from this company. Also, this audience is likely to go to a school, an environment of a wide variety of social statuses and backgrounds, therefore there is a much larger market in this audience too. Throughout the film, we also see that Mary is a teenage girl, and we decided to use a female to help us portray stronger emotions of fear, as women are stereotyped to be much more sensitive to emotions and are more expressive in this case.